Hello friends, welcome to another one of my little tips. I'm Big John, of course. Today we're going to talk about the second most important thing for miniature painting, paint. The first thing being brushes, obviously. I'm going to go on from beginning paints all the way up to the more expensive miniature paints, and some of them are just personal preferences, but we'll be right back with paint. Alright, back with paint. Now, I think everyone's probably seen these as they've walked through the halls of one of their local mega marts. It is craft paint. This is the Apple Barrel brand, sold by Walmart. I love Walmart. They have everything. But this is your lowest priced paint that you're going to find. Each bottle is about 50 cents for one this big. I use this one just for the visual. And something that myself and Big Eric just learned are there's apparently different types that I didn't even know about. Now, he told me about how on the label right here it will say matte or satin. And then this is an old bottle that just says gloss on it. I did not know that they made anything but regular flat paints. But another thing, this is their basic paint, and this is their multi-surface paint, which we just found out. This stuff is just for painting like on wood and possibly plastic and such, but it's not as durable because this stuff can be painted on ceramic, wood, metal, plastic. It's dishwasher safe when cured, weather resistant, and, well, this stuff will stick damn near anything, so it's probably amazing for terrain, whereas this stuff's more for like a bunch of kids painting on wood and sometimes miniatures. I'm not the biggest fan of it myself, but I've seen Eric do things with this craft paint that almost turned me. And again, this is going to be your lowest price point. The next slightly more expensive. The same price. Right. The next lowest price is
the metal paints are $1.19.
Oh, the metallics
they're more expensive.
Are a little bit more expensive because
they have the gem finish.
Right. They've got those little chips of metal in the metal medium, which makes them about $1.19,
$1.30, something like that. I think it's $1.19.
Somewhere in $1.25 range. But the next step up, if you look in their artist section, you'll see these little acrylic sets that have these tiny little like toothpaste tube looking things of acrylic paint. They work all right.
Bob Ross paints.
Bob Ross style paints, except acrylic instead of oil. But they work all right. I used them when I started off, and they're okay. But eventually, I moved on towards the miniature paints.
You got to water it all down, though.
Oh, you definitely need to water
that stuff down too.
With again, distilled water, great for paints and for a parched throat. The next set up, it's 24 little toothpaste tubes for about $18. Now, past the craft paints, we have the paints made by a brand specifically for miniatures. The lower priced ones are going to be Army Painter, which is a fine paint. It covers, and hang on a minute, technical difficulties. Sorry. I had a little bit of a mental blip there. They had to stop it. Army Painter. It is a really good paint for the price. It covers very well, and the difference between the two is just that the miniature paints use a finer grind of pigment, so it's a little bit smoother when it goes on. They have their basic paints for almost everything you need to do, and they also sell a line of inks and washes, and this is the quick shade washing medium. A lot of people like using this stuff because you can mix up your own custom colors. You just mix this stuff with an ink and sometimes a little flow improver and whatnot. You make your own wash out of almost anything. I will cover that in a later video though, but this quick shade mixing medium and their inks, very good product. The Army Painter, the basic paint set, 10-piece, it's about $25, and individually these are between $2 and $3.50 per little dropper, depends on where you go, obviously. Now you can buy their entire line of paints, which has 50 of these, for $80. which is actually pretty damn cheap compared to the other brands I'm going to talk about. The next brand would be Vallejo, and their Game Color. Another very good brand, made in Spain, so they're muy caliente. Yeah, I know it was terrible. They come under different names. There's Game Color, Game Air, Mecha Color, all made by the same parent company of Vallejo, just different, flashier labels. Side note again, they sell something called transparent paints. These are great for those clear resins. Again, we'll cover that in a later video for painting clear resin pieces. Now the last one I'll talk about, the Vallejo prices. I'm a fool. The basic sets is 16 paints for 45 bucks. They don't have a giant box set with every paint that I could see on Amazon, but I'm pretty sure it's not as cheap as Army Painter. Now, the next one, the most controversial, I suppose, amongst miniature painters, Citadel paints. Some people love them, some people despise them. I don't see any point in either one. Just get as many paints as you want and use everything. I love Citadel paints. The only problem I have with them in comparison to these have eyedroppers. These are in little pots, so it makes them a little more difficult to work with, but most people will just buy the little eyedroppers off of Amazon, pour these paints into the eyedroppers, and transfer the labels. They sell their paints, which their paints come in different lines. There's the base paint, heavy pigment, and they go on with a semi-flat surface, so it's easier to paint on top of. And then you have your layer paints, which are a little bit thinner, which are meant to go over their base paints. And then they've got dry paints, which is just a clump of dry goo they put in there. You don't really need it. Just learn how to dry brush. Do it with anything. The technical paints, though, are really cool. They are weird, different paints, gelatinous sometimes, that go on in different ways. These are for like gems. They have one for blood. They've got texture paints. All these different things. Their shades are really good. It's basically a wash, but with a matte medium. Love them. Fantastic. The pots here, they're about $3.50 to $5 a pot. Technicals can be up to $7 a pot. Just depends on what you're getting. They sell them in different sets, like a base set, which has, I want to say 11 different base color paints, or base line paints, and that's $40. And then they have a shade and a layer set. They have a dry set and an air set. Not a big fan of their airbrush paints. They're not terrible, but just not my thing. They're all about $40 to $60 for the sets. So they are much more expensive than the other paints, but I really like them. Their metallics are fantastic, and really it's just personal preference between the miniature paints brands. But I hope this was informative to you about different paints. I may have forgotten something, as I am wont to do, but I will update any information on a future video. Until then, craft or die, DeathCraft style. Woo!